I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores and welcome everyone who is joining us this evening via the live stream. Welcome all committee members. Second item on the agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We have no open forum. We do have 3 delegations, and I'll just remind all the delegations who hopefully are listening in that our delegations are 10 minutes in length, so we'd certainly appreciate it if you'd hold those timelines for us. The first delegation is from Julie Therian and Joe Holstead from the Canadian Nuclear Laboratories, and they're here to talk to us about the decommissioning of the Douglas Point facility. Turn it over to Julie and Joe.
Thanks, guys. Julie's trying to log in here. All right, Julie's having some technical difficulties right now, so I will I'll start us off. And share. All right, you guys can see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Thank you very much. Let's just get through here. All right, good evening. So thanks for providing CNL with the opportunity to give the town of Saugeen Shores an update on the Douglas Point decommissioning project. So I'm Joe Halstead. My colleague Julie is just having some technical difficulty right now, but she is the facility authority and operations manager of Douglas Point. And I'm the Douglas Point decommissioning manager. So today we'll be providing a brief overview of the decommissioning project and overall timeline. We'll present to you the license amendment and hearing decision, and then provide other some updates on the current and like the present work and some of the upcoming work this year. So this is the overall timeline. As you can see, went from 1960 all the way into the early 80s before the reactor was put into shutdown, and then it went into a storage and surveillance. Basically, our mission right now, if you flash forward to 2021 through 2025, it's the non-nuclear area, these buildings, and then it's later in 2025, and it'll be some of the outlying nuclear buildings. I'll show you on a map there a little bit later. And then after closing in on 2030, after that, it'll be the reactor building itself. Yeah, so that brings us to the license amendment. Sorry. So the sorry, guys. So we had a hearing on the 25th and 26th. There's important feedback from Concordant. I'd like to thank the people for, and the CNSC on March 15th granted a license amendment for Douglas Point, enabling CNL to begin phase 3. So other updates here. We had a sorry guys. So back in December, we had a spill of fuel at the Douglas Point site. There was a detected diesel fuel leak on the boiler during a nightly inspection. And the diesel is used for the steam boilers we have it provides the heat for the whole facility. So remediation efforts began immediately, and CNSC was notified of the diesel leak. The investigation determined 145 liters of diesel had been released. Because of some built-in safety measures with Bruce as well, we were able to recover 140 liters of diesel. And the event was disclosed to the host municipality and the indigenous communities. So next up is sort of my wheelhouse. It's the Douglas Point decommissioning projects. So if you look at the lower left picture, we've been doing asbestos abatement in the non-nuclear buildings in preparation for the building demos. And right now, the power to the nuclear buildings runs straight through the non-nuclear buildings. So we have a project right now to basically reroute that power around the perimeter so that we can continue to provide power to the nuclear buildings and go on ahead and demolish the non-nuclear buildings. So that's why we're doing that upgrade. So other upcoming work that we're going to be doing this year, and so you see on the right hand side there. Oh, sorry about that. There are steam lines coming on the turbine building and the associated structures. So those will all be coming down in the summer. We're going to complete the removal of the asbestos. Some of it is just waiting until we fully isolate power. We can get to cable trays, stuff like that. We're going to be doing the full mechanical isolation. So mechanical isolation is stuff like fire water lines, domestic water, sewage, that kind of stuff. So that's going to all be isolated this year. My next slide here. So for other activities in 21-22, see on the right hand side there, that's called the purification building. So there's about 30,000 pounds of radioactive waste stored in that building. Over the next few months, we're going to be removing that. About 90% of it's going to be recycled. We're going to be doing crane refurbishments in the building and the service building to facilitate the rest of the waste removals that we have planned. And we're also going to be doing the scoping and characterization of the service building and purification building. So this is scanning walls and surfaces and taking samples so that we have a good picture of what isotopes are there. So lastly, if there's any questions, you can visit any other info, you can get to go to cnl.ca/dp, or you can also email your stakeholder at cnl.ca. And I apologize for the technical issues here, but thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you guys if there's any questions.
Sure, no worries, Joe. Give me just a sec here. There we go. All right. Thank you very much. We'll ask if there's any questions or comments from members of the committee. I don't see any, so thanks very much for that update, and good luck with carrying on with the decommissioning. All right, then we'll move on to our second delegation, which is from Tracy Murray, and she's here to talk to us about the Saugeen Memorial Hospital Foundation's Grand Fondo event. Not the Grand Fondue, but the Grand Fondo. Tracy. You're still muted there.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I do that every time. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Well, it's nice to see all your faces. Thank you for having me tonight. I won't take much of your time, just a few minutes, sort of let you know what we're up to lately. I'm going to throw my presentation up here on the screen. Hopefully, can you guys see it?
Not yet.
No?
No, not yet.
Okay, hang on. Where is, oh, here we go. We'll get it, don't worry.
No problem. There you go.
How about now?
Yes, we got it now.
All right, hopefully, there we go. So tonight, I just wanted a few minutes of your time to let you know what we're up to over at the Hospital Foundation. You've probably seen, hopefully you've seen or heard our ads and our social media posts out there. Grand Fondo is a little different this year. It is virtual, so we sort of gave it a twist. We have lots of prizes we're giving away this year. We'll just flip here. So our goal this year is to raise at least $100,000, and those funds will be used to purchase 3 ECG machines for the hospital in Saugeen Shores, which are very much needed. Any remaining funds beyond that will go to the Owen Sound Hospital towards the purchase of a new ventilator. They are looking to purchase, I believe, 3 ventilators in total, which is about $200,000. So our remaining funds will go towards that. So why the Change a Life Challenge this year? We called it that because a lot of people, due to COVID over the last year and year and a half, have maybe suffered some financial impacts. Businesses, residents, everyone's been affected in some way or another. So we wanted to do something that would create some fun in the community for everyone to take part in, but also would give back, not only to the people participating, but to the businesses in our community. So we called it the Change a Life Challenge because the funds you raise could help save or change a life in our community, and the prizes that you could possibly win could help change your life. So you see, these are our grand prizes. Anyone who raises $1,000 in fundraising dollars gets a ballot into the grand prize draw, and every additional $500 they raise will get another ballot. We have groceries for a year, $2,000 Saugeen Shores vacation package, gas for a year, or you could win $10,000 towards your rent or mortgage. So all great prizes that could help change someone's life. So we wanted to give back this year, create something fun for the community. And usually Grand Fondo has quite an economic impact on the community by bringing 1,000 cyclists to town. A portion of those, of course, are local residents, but a lot come from places farther away and bring their families with them. They shop, they dine, they stay in accommodations, and unfortunately we can't do that this year. So our version of giving back to businesses in the community is that we will be purchasing those $30,000 in prizes, well, minus the 10 grand for your mortgage, but those will be purchased from local businesses, gift cards, retail items, dining, shopping, accommodations. So hopefully that is our way that we can give back to businesses in our community this year. You may have seen some of the stories that we've been sharing. Last week, we announced that the Saugeen Shores Police have put a team into the Grand Fondo. Their activity is collectively, they're going to bike, walk, or run the distance around the entire shore of Lake Huron, which is just over 6,180 kilometers. So that is their team goal for the Grand Fondo this year, and they would like to raise $5,000. They have also challenged local fire department and EMS to put in a team and meet or beat their challenge. So we are just asking for your help. If you know anybody in those departments, please let them know we've issued the challenge. Well, the police department has issued the challenge. Please share a social media post to help get the word out. Super 8 was our first team challenge. Their staff are walking the distance across Ontario this summer and looking to raise $5,000. Southampton Foodland, of course, accepted the Super 8 challenge. They're walking to Southampton, New York. And I think they're almost there, actually, and they're planning on walking the distance back to Southampton, Ontario. And we have a couple nuclear suppliers that have jumped on the bandwagon. Best Choice Haircutters in town has a team of about 13 people, and they're hoping to raise $10,000. So lots of people getting in on the fun. We want to keep those challenges coming. So if you're out and about, you're talking to people, or you can share our posts, we really appreciate it. We think those competitive challenges this summer and are stories that we can follow up on and continue to make some fun out in the community of Saugeen Shores this summer. So as I said, what we need from you, please just help us spread the word, share on your social media. If you like, join a team that's already on there. I think we have 13 teams already. So you're welcome to hop on a team that's already registered. You can start your own. You can just make a donation to someone online, share our posts. And I also remind you that the Rotary is doing the Huron Shore Run this month, and the proceeds from their event, they have decided, will all come to us this year to help the hospital. And those funds will be used to purchase a new cautery unit for the OR here in Southampton and a mini cautery unit for the ER. So if you can, please share any posts that they have. Their event, I believe, finishes June 26th. And I think they're around $31,000 in fundraising, which is amazing. Virtual events, although a little easier to plan in some ways, are a bit of a challenge this year. They went off without a hitch last year, very successful, but talking with other charities and nonprofits, I find virtual events are a little slower this year. Maybe because of COVID fatigue, people are getting tired. It's been a long haul, and there was a lot of virtual stuff last year, a lot taking place this year. So if you can just help in any way, share posts, put it out to your network, make a donation, or register for one of these events, that would be fabulous. And that's all I have for tonight.
Great. Well, thank you, Tracy. I'll just wait for the screen to come back. There we go. So are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Councilor Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, Tracy, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to see you at our council meetings. It's better in person, but virtually just the same. Thanks again for all your work. Are two questions. One is the blue bike, I've got this blue bike that I painted a couple of years ago. Is that still applicable? Do I put that at the end of my laneway, or do I keep it hidden?
You sure can if you like. Let's spread the word. We certainly want it back for next year. Hopefully we're all back to live events next summer. That would be great. So feel free to put it out. If not, hang on to it for next year. We'd love to see it out. Okay.
And second question, and I may have been sleeping through the past few months, I'm not sure, but did the MRI get paid for? And now we're moving on to some other equipment. Is that what
I'm hearing here? Yes, the MRI was paid for. There are still some multi-year pledges that are coming in. All of Saugeen Shores pledges have been paid. So we are paid in full for our share, and the MRI was installed, I believe, in September 2020 and is operational and going strong.
Oh, great. All right. Like I said, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Further questions or comments from members? Well, thanks, Tracy. And I think, you sort of alluded to it there. There's a bit of concern. I heard a bit of concern in your voice about the challenges around fundraising this year that the foundation may be facing. But I think there's no reason for you to face those concerns in the town of Saugeen Shores. This community always steps up to raise money for our hospital, and folks need to know about it. So I think our job here as members of council is to make sure everybody knows about it and make sure that that fundraising happens. But I think once people know there's a need and there's an opportunity, they're gonna kick that money in, and you're gonna have a successful year raising money at the foundation. So thanks for all your work. Thanks. Please pass along council's thanks to the foundation.
I will.
That's an extremely hardworking organization, and one that we rely on an awful lot. So it's much appreciated, and we look forward to your great success in 2021. Thanks for the update.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Have a good evening. That moves us then on to our third and final delegation from Connie Barker. She's the president of the Chantry Center, and she's here to update us on Chantry Center programs and reopening. Connie. Yep. Still muted there, Connie. There you go.
I'm so much better in person. I'm just setting that out in the beginning just so that you all know.
I think all of us know that, but you're great. You're great. You're great this way too. Welcome.
Good evening, Your Honor, Mayor Luke, Deputy Mayor Don, Vice Deputy Mayor Mike, Councillors Matt, Cheryl, Dave, Kristen, and Jamie, staff and members of the community. It's my pleasure to bring forward some exciting news from the Chantry Center in our 50 plus in our community. The Chantry Center is celebrating its 30th year, and we are very excited to share our COVID accomplishments. COVID slowed us down, but did not stop us from getting ready for the new normal. The Chantry Center is on Gray Street in Southampton, for those that don't know, and services a community of Saugeen Shores. Our mandate is to create a center where all 50 plus are welcome to come, enjoy, learn new things in an environment of camaraderie and respect. Program created by seniors for seniors. The building has been running this way for 30 years. A walk down history, the year is 1991, and the building became available, and a group of citizens embarked on a journey to make the center a reality. The learning and negotiating with 3 levels of government. The 3 levels of government did their part, as well as community-minded businesses. Their generosity was great. The official plan was in October of 1992. Our community embraced the center and made it happen with hours of fundraising and a core group who would not give up. 30 years later, the tradition continues with the creation of partnerships through the community. Some of our partners, the United Way has donated a new laptop and 10 tablets to make playing games a reality when we open up again. We have worked with Arteris Zuta from Innovation Catalyst Nuclear Promise X in Kincardine. Their team has set up all of the units with games, email communications programs, and we'll be running training programs for our seniors in the future. We're all going to learn how to Zoom and stuff. 10 businesses in the Southampton ward have made generous donations to enable us to purchase picnic tables. So we have 10 beautiful picnic tables at the center. If anybody needs to just sit at a quiet spot, have a coffee, we've got the tables. We are planning some outdoor activities this summer and know everyone will enjoy getting together. We have requested support from other companies and clubs to enable us to reopen with programs designed by Recreation Respite. As of today, the Lions Club and Westario Power have come on board. Recreational Respite is one of our new partners. With their aid, we will be conducting a Saugeen Shores senior survey. Hopefully, technically it all goes out tomorrow. And hoping it will recognize the needs and wants for programming in our community. The Chantry Center and the Park Group have also created a partnership to keep all seniors informed on the activities as they become available. The Chantry Center will be including the park news and announcement in its newsletter, hopefully every month when things get running. Last but not least, the town of Saugeen Shores. A loud shout out to the town staff for all their help in the above mentioned ventures. Frank and his team, Lisa, who is always there to answer my questions, Colleen, my go-to person for advice, Tracy, Jessica, I could go on and on. We would not have been able to achieve the things that we have achieved without their help. We are hoping for a great reopening in the fall with new programming and lots of exciting things to look forward to. Thank you for your time and everything that you do. You have kept us safe in a time no one could have known was coming our way. Your efforts are appreciated, and we look forward to bringing more good news in the future. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie. Questions or comments from members of the committee? I'll get the Vice Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Smith.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Connie, I just want to congratulate you and Chantry Senior Center on your 30 years. It's one of the nicer things, I think, nicer things I should say, that the town of Southampton back. I think was it one of the Breakers Lodge buildings, I believe?
It
that
was.
They moved up
Yes,
on
it
site.
was. It was a recreational center.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity to speak to the Chantry senior members on many occasions back when senior games were being held years ago, and good solid membership. And just the question I have you, Connie, how is the membership doing? Is it is it still thriving? I think I can recall maybe once upon a time there was 300, 400, 500 members. I'm not sure exactly the number.
Exactly.
But
Well,
how is it doing?
In our COVID year, we are fortunate we have 100 paid up members. And for not being able to open and run activities, I thank every one of them for their support.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Con. I just, again, want to thank you and for all the good work you do, and congratulations on the 30 years.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to express that I've been continually impressed with the senior members of our community and their ability to adapt throughout this pandemic. I've been on countless Zoom calls with individuals who, are in their 80s and maybe even 90s, and their ability to adapt to, as you've suggested, these crazy times is inspiring. I was particularly intrigued by the partnership that may be somewhat unique, the NPX partnership, and I love the idea of the support for our senior members. If nothing else, basic email correspondence. Connie, not everyone has the dozens of members of family tech support in several generations that you do. So your ability to extend that and provide it to other members of the community is fantastic. And I look forward to what that will bring for members of our community. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Connie, and to your leadership team for just looking for new ways to keep this gem of our community alive and well. And I really, appreciate all the partnerships that you've developed, and the adaptability to these difficult times, and keeping people connected is so important. And you're doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Connie, for coming and entertaining us once again and informing us. And as the chair of the board for the United Way and a member of the allocations committee, we were proud to sponsor you for your computers. And I encourage you to seek the United Way for any other programs. Keeping seniors active and involved is one of the core values of the United Way. And further than that, I'd say I'd encourage everybody to consider making contributions to the United Way, either on an ongoing basis or on a one-time basis, because we really like to be able to support groups such as seniors, children, and everybody that's in need across Grey and Bruce counties. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Thanks very much, Connie. Is there? It's been a little while since any of us have been to the senior center for an event or anything, and it's the 30 year. Is there any plans or any hope to have some celebration
I'm
of that?
telling you, if everything opens up, you all better be here, because we're going to have hamburgers and hot dogs from the Rotary Club, and we're going to have cake, lots of cake.
Well, I think you can count on us being there. So let's hope that can happen, because I think it's certainly an anniversary worth celebrating. So thanks very much for tonight, and thanks for all your work, Connie. It's much appreciated.
And thank all you for all of your work.
Well,
thank you very much. Good night now.
Good night. See you later. Okay, so that moves us on then to, we have no public meetings, so moves us on to item 7, reports of municipal officers. 7.2, general government, and the first one is a staff report on the vacant unit rebate program, and I suspect, yes, the Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Before you is a report requesting that council pass a bylaw to opt out of the vacant unit rebate program. On May 6th, Bruce County approved a recommendation to eliminate the vacant unit rebate program effective for the 2022 taxation year, and further recommended that local municipalities pass a local bylaw to ensure consistency across the county. Prior to December, this decision could only have been made at an upper tier level, but changes to Section 364 of the Municipal Act provided local municipalities the ability to pass a bylaw to eliminate the rebate. Over the last 3 years, staff have processed between 8 to 13 rebates each year, with an average impact to the town of $2,865. At this point, I will take any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. There is a recommendation that council pass a bylaw to opt out of the vacant unit rebate program, and we'll ask if there's questions or comments from members of the committee. Councillor Grace, and then we'll get Councillor Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Sue. I'm really happy to see this being recommended. I think it won't be a huge savings financially, but I'm hoping that it will promote more revitalization of our downtowns by providing an incentive for owners of vacant properties to put something in there and have real businesses in all of our storefronts. I do have one question about the construction of the bylaw. What could be included? What kind of provision could be included in the bylaw to make sure that temporary vacancies wouldn't be penalized?
Well, I think it's my understanding that you technically sort of opt in or opt out. So if council would, when you say temporary, are you referring to businesses that like?
I'm sorry, I meant sort of short term. Somebody who's, we, want to make sure that somebody who's just going through a hard time, trying to find somebody to rent their property, can't find it, isn't being penalized.
Maybe we'll ask the CAO to comment. CAO?
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe on the second page of the report, there's a few bullet points in there where we're looking at if they're vacant for 90 consecutive days. So I think that help answer your question, Councillor Gray?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the current rebate program to be able to apply. So if we were to eliminate it, then that would not be available any longer.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think just for clarity, so the vacant unit rebate program was originally intended to eliminate or to reduce property taxes for properties that are temporarily vacant. So if we eliminate the program, then a temporary vacancy you won't be able to get the rebate program. In fact, it's the more permanent vacancies or unused commercial lands that do receive a rebate through other provincial through the provincial programs. That's all referenced in the county's report. But this, you eliminate the vacancy rebate program. It eliminates the opportunity to apply for a rebate for a temporary vacancy. Okay, I think Councilor Mayette next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sue, thanks for your report. I'm just going to ask off the top of your head, do you know what the vacancy rate is in town? I get the feeling that it's pretty low because I don't drive around seeing a lot of storefront vacancies, but can you tell me, like you mentioned that the uptake last year was $2,000 or $3,000, so it doesn't seem like it's a great deal, but do you have any idea how many ongoing vacancies we do have?
Well, I can tell you that 8 properties applied for the rebate last year in Saugeen Shores. That's the breadth of the depth I can tell you. I don't know exactly where they were located, but those there were 8 properties that applied for the rebate in 2020. Right.
So this is kind of an encouragement for them and a sign of the times that businesses are looking for properties and that you shouldn't have trouble finding something now, right?
Possibly, yes. And there was, out of the 8, I believe, that had property rebate properties, there was only 1 out of the 8 that was a first-time rebate application.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that, in terms of a trend, the province has eliminated the rebate on its own on the education portion of property taxes. So and other municipalities, many other municipalities have taken this step. It's increasingly being phased out. Are there further questions or comments from members? I think I would just I'll just make one comment to say that it's a question of tax policy and fair tax policy, and the point from my perspective is we oughtn't be using the property taxes to encourage one type of behavior or another. We should be imposing taxes in return for services that we render. And a building that exists that is receiving all municipal services. We're providing it needs police, it needs fire, it needs roads, it needs all those things, the same things that any other building does. So whether its status, whether it's vacant or occupied, is not really an indicator of what it costs the municipality to service. No rebate is offered for a vacant house. For the same reason, because the house is there and we have to service it and protect it and do all the things that we do. So, so I think it's fair tax policy to eliminate the rebate, and so I'll be supporting it. If there's no further questions or comments, you've heard the recommendation. I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. All right, thank you. That moves us then on to staff report on the community safety and well-being planning revised, I think that's be plan revised municipal agreement, and we'll turn over to the clerk.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So in January of this year, Council adopted the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. The plan was created in partnership with the County of Bruce, the County of Grey, and the 16 lower tier municipalities located within those two counties. This report represents an agreement that reaffirms the commitment between the upper and lower tier partners, which allows us to make use of existing relationships with the partnering organizations and to effectively share the resources that will assist in implementing the plan. This agreement requires each municipality to appoint members to their advisory committee, and Saugeen Shores is allowed to appoint up to 5 members to the advisory committee. And currently we have the police chief and myself serving on the committee. Now that we can appoint up to 5 members, council may wish to appoint additional members to the committee, which would include appointing a member of council if you so wished. I will note that the Police Services Board will be considering appointing a member at their board meeting. I think that will be held this week. The financial impact to this report is that the 2021 budget does include a $5,000 contribution towards this partnership arrangement for the implementation strategy to implement your plan. So I will open that for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a recommendation that council pass a bylaw to authorize the revised community safety and well-being plan municipal agreement between the town of Saugeen Shores, County of Bruce, the County of Grey, and 16 participating local municipalities listed in the agreement, and that the chief of police and the clerk be reappointed to the Bruce Grey Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Advisory Committee. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Councilor Mayat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I will say from the police point of view, as the chair of the Police Service Board, we spent quite a bit of time and effort, and I was on the committee that worked through the development phase of the community safety and well-being plan. So it's quite a comprehensive plan that was legislated by the province through the Solicitor General, and it brings together services from many aspects of community support, and I'm quite proud to have been involved, and I'm happy with the product. And I'm glad to see that there would be an ongoing oversight committee, and this is a very important role. And certainly, as was indicated by the clerk, we will be considering the question of putting a member of our Police Services Board on the committee on Wednesday at our police meeting. So it's a public meeting. If anybody would like to join in on the Zoom meeting, you're welcome to. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? I would, for myself, just restate my concern about the governance model. I think, this is going to be a 70+ person advisory panel. Town of Saugeen Shores alone can appoint 5 members. This is a Police Services Act. This comes out of the Police Services Act. Its overall intent is to reform policing, and it's governed, but it ends up being governed by a small subcommittee dominated by the County of Bruce and the County of Grey, 2 municipalities that don't have police services and don't pay for them. But the lower tier municipalities do. Town of Saugeen Shores is in over $4 million a year in policing. If anybody's going to be affected by policing reforms, it's going to be the town of Saugeen Shores. We'll be the most affected in the County of Bruce, that's for sure, since we pay the most. We have the largest cost of any community in the County of Bruce, and yet we're going to be one of many members in a 70-person advisory panel, and we do not have any role in the overall overarching governance in terms of working with the administrator of the program, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that should be concerning to the town of Saugeen Shores, and I think we should probably, I don't intend to hold this up. I know a great deal of work has been done on it, and I hope that positive work can come out of it, although I'm not sure how any work can be done on a 70-person. Look at, I've been on plenty of boards and committees, most of which are under 20, well under 20, and it's hard enough, as we all know, to work to get a committee to agree on things even much smaller. So this is more akin to the United Nations than a regular committee, and I think it's going to be complicated. So I'd like to see how it works. I think what we should do is approve the agreement tonight. And but our funding is only approved for this year. And when the funding comes back to be re-upped at the end of this year, I think we should review our role in this and decide whether or not this governance model is working for the town of Saugeen Shores, and potentially advocate for something different if it isn't. But for now, I'll be supporting the recommendation, and hopefully we can revisit this at budget time and see whether we want to continue or not, and we'll have a sense of whether it's working. All right, and I guess one other thing, I guess if this is approved this evening, I guess I'll take it as part of this that the council expects the striking committee to come back with a recommendation on another person to appoint to the committee. I guess you guys can tell me now if you think that that's not appropriate. But I think if this passes, council can expect to get that recommendation from the striking committee in the next while. Okay, I don't hear any objections to that, so that's how we'll proceed. All right, so you've heard the recommendation, and I'll ask all in favor. Opposed? Carried. I think Councilor Might's voting in favor. It just seems low. Okay, so that moves us on. Sorry, gotta get back to my agenda to 7.3 infrastructure and development, and we have a staff report on the delegation of land division responsibilities, and we have the supervisor of development services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a pretty straightforward report, at least for now. I want to take a look at this with a cautious approach. Land division, as you know, is the authority of the Bruce County Council. All subdivisions, consents, easements, anything under the Planning Act is the authority is County Council. Right now, they delegate a lot of it, as in the report. About 90% of all their applications are delegated for staff approval. The mayor actually introduced this a couple months ago to this council that there'll be a further examination of this. So tonight we're just asking for you to express any interest that you may have in receiving delegated authority for all land division in Saugeen Shores, and that you're going to instruct staff to research it, evaluate it, and come back with a report based on that evaluation. And I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you. I'll read the recommendation. That council affirm in principle their interest in having the authority to consider land division responsibilities to be delegated to the council of the town of Saugeen Shores, and that council direct town staff to engage with the County of Bruce staff and return with a recommendation regarding implementation and transition based on an analysis of the following: cost effectiveness, streamlining, and ability to address local context. Questions or comments from members of the committee? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I guess my question, I think lukewarm towards this. I'm anxious to hear your comments tonight on it, though, Mr. Mayor. I think you probably will have some comments on. As a matter of fact, I think this might have been your idea there a few months ago. But I just wondering about the cost effectiveness and the amount of staff time that this could end up taking with our Department of 1J, and I don't know who else would be involved, but I guess it was the cost of, the time, the cost effectiveness. I guess probably the county would welcome this, maybe, in terms of turning these responsibilities over to our staff of one. Well, I guess why would they not want to do that, I suppose. But I guess from a community benefit standpoint, there has to be benefits, from the planning process. I guess will applications, I guess Jay, Carrie, you can answer this question, but will applications be any quicker timelines? I guess the costing of it will come out in the report. We're just really approving in principle, which we'll move on for a further look. But I guess my two basic questions tonight were from a timing perspective. Will application process actually speed up because of this? And I can see some costs maybe associated with this from a staffing perspective in the future. So can you just comment on those two things quickly, Jay?
Well, I mean, this is why we want to investigate it. I think there's a lot of variability even across the province about whether certain technical matters are delegated, whether in the county's case they delegate non-contentious files. So anything that has a public opposition or say the county staff don't recommend automatically gets pushed to county council. Luke can comment on this more directly. He sees it. So I hesitate to provide any preliminary analysis on timing or cost, but there are scenarios I think that might be doable under more or less current circumstance, but it's really that framework I would like you to get provide direction on is, it has to be right for Saugeen Shores. I think we wouldn't recommend, at least preliminarily recommend delegation unless there is going to be sort of an understanding that good land use policy will be implemented in Saugeen Shores.
Well, that's fine. I do, and I know it's just approving for, I mean, and I guess we're just looking at improving in principle, and we will get all that information. And so I would be interested to see what how this would benefit our community. Is it going to speed up the process? Did all that all come out? Costing implications, and how this will benefit our residents. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have similar questions as the Vice Deputy Mayor, and but I do think it makes sense for us to look at this, and I would support staff going ahead and investigating. And I think we're lucky that we have Jay and we have an expert in Kara to be able to give us some extra advice on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? I think just to add some clarity from the perspective of Bruce County Council, the understanding of Bruce County Council in passing this along to the lower tiers is that what we're talking about delegating is the decision-making responsibility, where the decision finally gets made at what table. So where you have a severance proposed and it's contentious, should that decision be made at Bruce County Council in Walkerton, or should it be made at Saugeen Shores Council in Saugeen Shores? And it isn't the intention, and I think there'd be very little support at Bruce County Council for the concept of setting up separate bureaucratic infrastructures at each of the lower tier municipalities to do what the county is currently doing centrally. The intention is that the county would continue to provide all of the services it's currently providing. County staff would continue to do all of that work, but instead of bringing the final report to Bruce County Council, they would bring the final report to Saugeen Shores Council. So the additional cost, there'd be very little tolerance at Bruce County Council for creating additional costs for the lower tiers. The intention is to just get to localized decision making and to make sure that because from my perspective, we got a lot of development going on in Saugeen Shores, a lot of severance is happening, and it's pretty inconvenient for our citizens to have to go to Walkerton for a tribunal to decide on those. They should be able to do that in Saugeen Shores, and I think this is a reasonable way to get that done. So I'm looking forward to the review, but I think it's a positive thing, and I don't think there needs to be too much concern about additional costs, because that it certainly is not the intention of Bruce County Council to download the cost of this to the lower tiers. The intention is to download the decision making. If there's no further questions or comments, then I'll ask all in favor of the recommendation. Opposed? That's carried. Okay. So that moves us on to communications for information. There are 7 items there. Any questions or comments or items you want to highlight there? I don't see any, so we'll move on then to reports of municipal councilors, and you see my report there for your information. And then we have the report of department heads, and we have an information report about the Attainable Housing Task Force recommendations implementation, and I suspect that's from the CAO. It is the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited tonight to be in front of you talking about the next steps related to the Attainable Housing Task Force and the 25 recommendations that they delivered to the town of Saugeen Shores in February 2021. I almost lost a year there. Since that time, since the recommendations were delivered, we have been working in the background, and this report is a bit of an update for council tonight and to tell you where we are at this point in time. So those recommendations were advanced to an implementation working group that was facilitated by the Municipal Innovation Council. Those recommendations were also met with a number of recommendations that were brought forward from both the University of Waterloo and the University of Guelph that completed a number of research initiatives on behalf of this work. So it brought the total recommendations that were being looked at to about 46. Over the last several months, the implementation committee has met a couple of times and has looked at a number of pieces. And I included in the report the area of focus, refining the goal, or why we're doing what we're doing. And then most importantly, looking at the recommendations and evaluating them and prioritizing them. The committee worked through quite a process to evaluate all 46 of those recommendations. And you'll see on the third page of my report there that they did deliver a recommendation with 11 priority items for the municipality to look at. Since that time, staff have considered those 11 recommendations or top priorities and refined them even further to the 5 that you see on the final page of my report. And I will just highlight them for any of the public that is listening tonight. So number 1 is supporting education and enhanced communication on housing. Number 2, improved land use planning frameworks and design guidelines. 3, looking at municipal surplus land inventory and a request for proposal process for those lands. 4, development of incentives and grants and pilot programs around those opportunities. And 5, the development of a long-range action plan for the municipality to consider. These are really important 5 first steps for the community of Saugeen Shores as it relates to moving forward housing for all of us. And that was the goal. So the goal, I will state, is housing for everyone, fostering community well-being. Looking at what this means for the town of Saugeen Shores, it is really important that as a municipality, we look at the extent of this portfolio and how we can move these recommendations forward. So I have advanced this conversation to Strategy Corp, who is our consultant that is working on our municipal service delivery review. Strategy Corp is aware, has all the background information and is aware of this report, and will be looking at the addition of housing resourcing to the town of Saugeen Shores to continue to move this good work forward. Those recommendations will be coming back to Town Council for your consideration in September this year. And we believe that that gives sufficient time for Council to consider these recommendations in the context of the 2022 budget timeline. So that's my overview of the report, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your report, Karen. It's a really good update, and you know, it just brings to light the. I mean, I really want to thank Dave Shorey and yourself and Jay. I thought the 2 meetings were held after the Attainable Housing Task Force finished their good work with their 46 recommendations, and now we narrowed it down to 11 key ones, and then you say you talk about the 5 super short-term key ones, and I just you know, I know we have a report coming in September, but I have a request of council tonight, Mr. Mayor, and I'm hoping I can gain some support here. There are some short-term things I think that, you know, we need to move forward with sooner than later, and I was really hoping that this council would, you know, take a look at you know, a short-term contract that could help move some of these short-term goals forward quicker, you know, sooner than later. I know the report's coming in September, and maybe some recommendations rolling out into budget and into next spring. But what I like to see, I've made some points here in terms of what a short-term contract could look like, and I was hoping staff maybe could come back, you know, whether it's in July or later this summer, in preparation for the Strategy Corp report, you know, to talk about what a short-term contract could look like, you know, starting as quick as hopefully in September. I was hoping sooner, but you know, this will take some time. But you know, I think that we could complete the surplus lands inventory. I think a short-term contract person could, you know, could take a look at all of our lands that we have in our inventory, and what kinds of uses could be placed on those lands, and different zonings and so on and so forth. I think that we could take a look at CMHC financing and grants, and how some funding sources that may be helpful to help, you know, to work with developers this fall, early next year. Let's take a look at some funding sources. I think we could this person could take a look at a request for proposal like they did in town of Blue Mountains. They prepared an RFP and sent it out to developers for town-owned land, say, here's what can you build on these lands, and that RFP will take some time. Partnering with Bruce County and take a look at the official plan update, zoning bylaw update, how we implement those changes as quickly as we can. And there's probably others that staff, could think about that, that a planning student can come in and help us move forward. We have a department of one, Jay, who does a tremendous job in my view, but there's only so much our current staff can do to move this housing agenda forward. This doesn't have to cost, a ton of money, but I just, rather than wait till next spring, summer, I was hoping that with a 3-month contract, 6-month contract, whatever it may be, that they could do some planning over the course of the summer. So that's what I was hoping to do, Mr. Mayor, is ask for support this evening for staff to come back with a report along the lines of what short-term contract may look like to move our housing agenda forward. I think it's in the forefront and foremost in a lot of people's minds in our community right now, helping those in need with affordability, attainability, and I think anything we can do to speed up the process would be a good thing. So I wanted to put that on the table this evening and hopefully get some feedback. So.
Is there any opposition to what the Vice Deputy Mayor is suggesting? Deputy Mayor?
Not opposition, please. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you. It's not opposition. I understand where the Vice Deputy Mayor is coming from. It's a very important topic, concern for a lot of people, knowing what the price of housing is around Ontario, let alone Saugeen Shores. Average house price now is close to over $640,000. But I do believe we've got the recommendations from the committee. I would like to see this definitely put in the budget for next year. How we move forward from there. Can we do it right now the way our office is functioning with the COVID protocols on? I know staff will be looking at re-entering the building, but until then, what can we really do? I just want to throw those questions out there. I know it's important. I want to work with that, but is now the time for that? We don't normally add budget items midway. That's what we said the last couple of years, but I'm just looking for some comments here.
I think what we're talking about, or what the Vice Deputy Mayor is proposing, is a report from staff to see, us asking for a report about a contract position, and then we would get a report and we could decide at that point whether we wanted to proceed with that or not, whether we wanted to fund it, and staff would tell us whether it was possible with COVID protocols and all other issues, right? So all we're asking for is a report, not actually doing it.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought he was asking for it right now, but if it is to get a report, yes, I'll support that. I'll even second the motion.
Okay. Yeah, we don't need a motion. I was just thinking I could just do it by consensus if there was no opposition. Is there any opposition to it? Or Dave, Councillor Mayette, pardon me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I too am not against this. This is a good first step forward. But with regards to the compiling an inventory of surplus lands, we've been talking about compiling inventories of surplus lands since the days when I was chair of the Parks and Trails Advisory Committee back in 10 or more years ago. We must, by this point, have a pretty good idea. And I heard the CAO mention earlier that there are no pieces of land that we own that are suitable for housing really exist. We've got little bits and pieces and corners and some unopened roads and things like that, but none of it is your 2 or 3 acres that you're really looking for development. But my question is, then, do we not have a pretty good idea what our inventory of surplus land is by now?
If I,
Yeah.
through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a inventory. we do know that information, so that's a good point. I think what we're looking at here is looking at how we take that inventory and we look at it in relationship to a set of criteria that would highlight whether or not it is available or could be used towards housing development. I just want to correct on your comment related to what I said. That is not across the board, that the municipality only has leftover pieces of land. We are probably the biggest landowner in the community. So we do have some opportunities there. So it would be a process to take a look at that surplus land and weigh it against a set of criteria to evaluate whether or not the land is suitable to then potentially move forward with an RFP process to look if we can encourage some housing development on it.
Okay. Further questions about this report? We're getting a little sidetracked just on that main question. I would just like to be able to give direction to staff. Maybe I do need a resolution, but I'd like to give direction to staff on the question raised by the Vice Deputy Mayor. I haven't heard any opposition to asking for the report. I don't think there is any. So we'll ask for that report to come back, and we can look at whether or not a part-time or a contract position is the right way to proceed with moving some of these things forward in the shorter term. So we'll do that. Are there any other questions on the broader report? No, I think well, I just want to say thank you for the report, Karen, for all the work that everybody did to get us to this point. I think we're making, it's important to note, some really good short-term progress. I mean, we've got our quote unquote low-hanging fruit zoning bylaw amendments sort of making their way through the process, which I think are all very positive and which will have a positive impact. I know we've already had some successful conversations with developers about how they can help us add to the inventory of affordable housing in various forms, whether that be secondary suites or higher density developments, this kind of thing. So those conversations are really taking off, I think, because of the priority that this council is putting on that topic. So that's good, and you know, we'll be able to move some of these other things forward. I do think that surplus land inventory and the context of which pieces of property might be available for housing is really important, because I've noted in some of those conversations that it is sort of stymieing our ability to move forward conversations with different partners, whether that be Habitat for Humanity or with the County of Bruce, not knowing exactly where to proceed or where opportunities exist. So that I think that's something we do need to proceed with relatively quickly, so that we can have those conversations and move forward with projects. So if I was going to pick out anything as a really high priority, that's what I would pick out. But anyway, we'll keep having these conversations, and I know we'll make progress. So thanks for that report, Karen. Appreciate it very much. All right, then that moves us on. That moves to the end of the agenda. So we'll have announcements by members, and we'll start with the Deputy Mayor.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Councillor Grace and I actually, well, you were there too, Mr. Mayor, ice cream tasting event and with proceeds for an upcoming event on July 11th for the John Cowles Parquet, local ice cream company out of Paisley. Had the ice cream testing day for members of the Port Algonquin Beach Association, and it was a fun afternoon. And the idea is they are creating an ice cream flavor in memory of John Cowles, and their plan is to roll that out on July 11th if they can get the permit finalized through the town offices. And I think it's 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, I believe, Cheryl, if correct me if I'm wrong, tentatively on July 11th, if the permit goes through. And they'll be bringing in some ice cream, a flavor designed in memory of John, and it was very tasty. And they'll be selling the ice cream, and I think every sale, $1 that day, goes to the John Cowles Parquet. And their plan is to sell this ice cream throughout the course of the summer with their special license they've received from the town. And for every sale throughout the course of summer, 50 cents of their ice cream cone sales will go to the John Cowles Parquet. So I just wanted to kind of give a little plug for that event on Sunday, July 11th, John Cowles Parquet, at the bottom of County Road 25. Just kind of mark that on your calendar, folks, and come down for an ice cream cone.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Schreiber.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Tonight, I would like to recognize and stand in solidarity with the survivors and intergenerational survivors of the hundreds of children that have been found in unmarked graves through multiple residential schools in Canada. as we, as our community, collectively mourn, grieve, and remember them. There's also a time to assume responsibility and determine how we can move forward. In my opinion, there's at least a dotted line between the cavalier nature of the racism and discrimination that is tolerated in our country, and yes, in our community, and the recent tragedy that took place in London, Ontario. Both of these instances are tragic beyond measure, and I would like to extend my condolences to the Afzal family and indeed the entire community of London, or rather the city of London. As we enter June, which is notoriously the Indigenous Heritage Month, as well as Pride Month, which celebrates our LGBTQ members of our community, I would just like to, I think, remind everyone of the words that Connie Barker used earlier tonight, which is camaraderie and respect. And if we could continue to extend those lessons in our community and beyond in our country as we progress and find a resolution to these difficult instances in our community.
Thank you. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two announcements, both related to the Southampton Rotary. One is to thank them for their donation of several Moby mats. Moby mats are mats that go on top of the sand and will allow a wheelchair easy access to the water, for instance. But one's going to be at the Long Dock Beach and the other one at the Flag in Southampton. And they can also be borrowed if needed for an event or a wedding at the beach. So that was a generous donation that's promoting accessibility in our community. The other event that I wanted to mention, which has a really interesting historical relevance, on last Friday, I participated in a meeting that the Southampton Rotary held with the Southampton Rotary of England. And the presentation focused around the production and history of Spitfire, which was produced in Southampton, UK. In 1940, unfortunately, the Germans targeted Southampton in England because of the production of the Spitfires, and besides wiping out the two factories there, it also, there were a number of civilian casualties. The city was heavily bombed. What's interesting is that the Southampton Rotary Club in our Southampton immediately mobilized and donated 200 British pounds. At the time, that would be the equivalent of $22,000 Canadian today, to assist with the city of Southampton and help them out in those dark days. So members of our Southampton Rotary Club contacted Southampton UK years ago, but also more recently, and there's a wonderful partnership developing there with joint meetings, and I understand they are planning at least one shared project. So thank you to Southampton Rotary for all your work.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, and then we'll get Councillor Carr.
Nothing for me.
Okay, Councillor Mayette.
Just one thing, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and through you, back on the fish theme, the Lake Huron Fishing Club has decided that we can safely move ahead with the Chantry Derby this summer, which runs from July the 24th until August the 2nd. It's about 10 days in length, 10 days of fun-filled fishing outings. Tickets have gone on sale. They can be purchased in Saugeen Shores at J&S Tackle, or at the Southampton Outfitters, or if you're up in Wyerton at Lures and Lines or Canadian Tire in Kincardine also. Or you can purchase them online at lakehuronfishingclub.com. So all of you salmon and trout fishermen out there, consider joining the Derby. It's a major source of fundraising for the Lake Huron Fishing Club to keep our 2 hatcheries running and full, of which we've been very successful in keeping the fish stocks at a tremendous level. And of course, the spinoff to that is many people come to Saugeen Shores and spend money on hotels and restaurants and gas stations and lures and keep our economy bustling in the summertime. So consider buying a ticket, even if you're not a fisherman. It supports the club. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Nothing from me this evening, so we'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Carr. All in favor? The Committee of the Whole stands adjourned, and we'll reconvene the regular council at 5 to 8.
So, Mr. Mayor, we have Councillor Rich absent. We have all members in attendance, so you may begin.
Thank you, Linda. Then I'll call to order this regular council meeting. Second item on the agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We have no public meeting. So that moves us on to adoption of the minutes. And I have a resolution that council adopt the minutes of the council meetings of May 25, 2021, and note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of May 25, 2021 as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Mattson, seconded by Grace. Any questions or comments to either of those sets of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, that then moves us on to reports of the Committee of the Whole. And the first one is a general government report regarding the Ontario Tankard sponsorship. And I have a resolution that council waive $5,000 of the rental fees for the 2022 Ontario Men's Curling Championship, and that these fees be used for a gold level sponsorship. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Matson, second by Smith. Questions or comments to that resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, that moves us then on to the second report, which is an infrastructure and development report regarding floodline hazard assessment. And I have a resolution that council authorized Shore Plan Engineering Limited to carry out the floodline hazard assessment in accordance with the SPCA comments with a fee estimate of $13,000 plus applicable taxes to be funded from the prior year capital reserve. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Matson, seconded by Grace. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. All right, that moves us then on to item 7, report of municipal officers and committees, and staff report on Linden Court Drainage Pit Award. And I have a resolution that Doug Welsh Construction Limited be awarded the contract for the Linden Court project in the amount of $69,577.35 plus applicable HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the necessary documents. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Carr, seconded by Smith. Questions or comments of the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. That then moves us on to, we have no motions or notices. So that moves us on to bylaws, and there are 2 bylaws there to consider. Does anybody want to consider either of those individually? Don't see any requests for that. So I have a resolution that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 14th day of June 2021. 1/40/2021 being a bylaw to authorize a site plan agreement with 2806783 Ontario Limited for 1230 Wellington Street, Town of Saugeen Shores, and 2/41/2021 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 54/2019, being the bylaw to manage and regulate parks within the Town of Saugeen Shores. Is there a mover and second? By Grace, seconded by Schreider. Questions or comments to either of those bylaws? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, then that moves us on to close to public, and I have a resolution that council move into close to public session to discuss matters in accordance with bylaw 63/2015, section 3.8.2B regarding personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, regarding human resource matters. Mover and seconder. Moved by Schreider, seconded by Mayette. All in favor? That's carried. We'll move into closed session. I guess we're heading to a separate Zoom link for that, so we'll log out of here and see you over there.
Mr. Mayor, we have all members back and we're recording and live. You may begin.
Thank you. So I have a resolution that council arise from close to public session and resume the regular council meeting as mover and seconder. Moved by Mayette, seconded by Schreider. All in favor? That is carried. All right, and then I will report that council received information on human resource matters in closed session. And so that moves on to the confirmatory bylaw. I have a resolution that bylaw 42, 2021, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 14th day of June, 2021. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by Carr. All in favor? That's carried. And then finally, that moves us on to adjournment. And I have a resolution that this regular meeting, council meeting of June 14th, 2021, hereby adjourns at 8:44 p.m. as our mover and seconder, Mayette. And you have a question, Dave, or are you moving? Sorry, it's moved by Dave, seconded by Councillor Smith. Your hand was up early. It confused me.
Just
All right.
trying to keep the process rolling.
Good idea. And you ended up delaying it. Anyway.
Oh, in here, we got my hat on. See?
All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.